Hi everyone, welcome to Free Healing Made AU My Autistic Life. My name's Nisi. Welcome to Big Sky, Montana. This is my channel. So it is the month of April, and there's a lot of very emotionally charged conversations about the month of April and autism awareness. I can only speak for me. So where do I stand with this whole World Autism Day, World Autism Awareness Day, National Autism Awareness Week, which is April 2nd through the 8th, at least here in the United States. I don't know about everywhere else. I have some passionate feelings myself about it. So I'm an advocate. I am autistic. I'm also ADHD, and I have a lot of challenges that I face every day. So for me, every day is Autism Day. For my son, every day is Autism Day. So when I do these kind of advocate campaigns, I try to use this opportunity in a positive way. I try not to focus on all the negative, because there's a lot of negative. There is. It's the world we live in. And so I choose to try to advocate for acceptance, not really awareness too much. For me, acceptance is what's lacking, at least from what I can see, from where I live, from what I've seen in the schools, what I've personally have experienced in the workplace. And so there's a lot of awareness, and the awareness piece is being covered really well. You can be aware of something but not be accepting of it, and be intolerant of it, and expect someone who really struggles to meet your expectations and set that person up for failure. And so for me, acceptance is key. And I do not wear blue, because blue, the color blue, is spread from the organization Autism Speaks. This video is not about that organization, but I will say I do not support anything that has to do with Autism Speaks. So that's just me. Everybody has a right to their own opinion, and we can have a dialogue of different opinions, and you can still agree to disagree in a nice way and still talk to that person later. And I don't agree with it. I don't agree with ABA therapy. I do not agree with ABA therapy. I do not. I believe that there are other ways to help a child other than that. And that's all I'm going to say about that. That is one thing I don't get in discussion with people, because it's just things can get really ugly really fast. And so for me, it's about acceptance. And with acceptance, we don't wear blue. We wear gold, and we wear red. So you'll hear a lot of language like wear red instead, wear gold instead. And so I wear gold and red are two colors that represent autism acceptance. I did a live on April 2nd with Gemma's Journey Grace and Claire from Woodshed Theory, and it was a really awesome live. We got a lot of positive feedback from people who learned some things that they didn't know. I got to answer some questions in the chat, one specifically about, how do you find resources if you have a grandchild or a child that is under the age of 5. I basically told them what we did to find help for our son, because he was severely speech delayed and he needed speech therapy and he needed help with other things, and we needed to get him diagnosed because we needed to find out what was going on so we could help him learn the way that he learns. That's a part of acceptance, is accepting somebody's diagnosis, accepting their strengths and accepting where they struggle and meeting them where they're at, and helping learn how they process their world, and teach them in a way that they can learn from their strengths, not change them, not teach them how to mask. And so, because honestly, your child's going to learn how to mask automatically in school. Every kid, I don't care if you're autistic, ADHD, if you're neurotypical, they mask too, people. They mask to fit in with the in crowd. They do it too. Anyway, don't get me started. Anyway, so unfortunately our kids are going to do that naturally because, to keep from getting picked on or bullied or wanting to fit in with a certain crowd of kids. It's kind of like a normal, unfortunately, it's just a path a lot of kids end up taking, survival mode. Anyway, and then another thing, I was very blessed when I worked for the school district in Pensacola, Florida. I had a boss that was I was already working there for a while before I got my diagnosis. And when I went into her office and I told her what my diagnosis was, one, she wasn't surprised at all. She was like, yeah, I kind of figured. And I'm like, I'm feeling burnout, and this is why. Is there anything you can do to help me in the office? And there was a lot of accommodations that she was willing to make me. And so it went well for me. I'm one of those lucky people. It doesn't always go well for people when they disclose that they're autistic to their manager or their boss or whatever. And so even with that, though, I still struggled with my work. I was really good at what I did, but when I got home, I didn't have energy for anything else. So like the house cleaning didn't get done. I didn't spend enough time with my kids or my husband because I was in the bedroom, in the dark room, under the covers, in shutdown mode, wanting to sleep. So when we moved to Montana, one of the things that my husband and I agreed on was that I would not take a leadership role job again, because I was in charge of 52 bookkeepers, 52 different schools underneath one school district. It was crazy. And we decided that for my mental health, that is not something I needed to do again. I did it. I wore the t-shirt. I earned that t-shirt. I got my trophy. We're done. So my first 2 years living here in Montana, I did not work. I physically couldn't. I couldn't walk very well at all. My left hip was disintegrating, just like my right one had, and I needed a full hip replacement in my left side. So there was no way I was going to be able to work until I got that hip replaced. So once I get the hip replaced, I took a small job as a para at my son's school, and I did okay. As far as they had me help kids in the high school math, because I'm a numbers whiz. I just am. And so I tutored pre-algebra and algebra, geometry, and trig. And not trig. What was it? Sorry, not trig. Pre-algebra, algebra, geometry, and economic math, was it? It wasn't trig. I don't know why I said trig. Economic math, something like that. It was a different kind of math for kids that had special needs and they had a lot of learning disabilities and they weren't able to do your mainstream math classes. But they still needed that credit to graduate. And I want to say they called it economic math, which, like how to use a checkbook and how to add and subtract in that checkbook and, these things like that. And I was really good at that. That was something I really was good at. But I had a lot of struggles in a lot of other areas. And there were some other things going on too that just didn't make that position for me. It was not the right place for me to be. And so I had to resign and step down, which was really hard to do. I've never, ever in my 50 years of living on this earth, since I started working at the age of 16 at a McDonald's. And since the age of 16, I have never quit a job. Just right out resigned a job. Never. The only time I've ever left a job is if I got promoted and that promotion moved me to a different location. That was it. It was always a promotion. So I still worked for the same company, but I worked in a different department with a different title. So that was really hard for me. It was really hard for me to resign, and I had a lot of guilty feelings about it. I felt like I was letting a lot of people down, and I had to make an appointment with my psychiatrist and kind of work through that because I was doing what was best for me and I really wasn't letting people down. If I would have stayed in that position, I just don't feel like I could have given the amount. I couldn't have given enough of myself to fulfill what was needed in that job. Anyway, and so I was being responsible actually. And so, but that was hard because I didn't last the entire school year. And so I felt like a failure. It was just all kinds of feelings. All kinds of icky feelings went with that whole scenario. Anyway, I would like to say I've been able to work through all that and I'm okay with it. I know I made the right decision. So I took the rest of the year off and I took that summer off to kind of regroup, and I started looking for other jobs in this area and trying to pinpoint what would be best for me. And I was really nervous about going to work, and even at the job I have now, I struggle in a lot of ways. So stress management is one of the ways I struggle, and I hate talking on the darn phone. I do not like being on the phone, but it's not all day long, but I have to answer the phone sometimes. And so I have to deal with that, and I do pretty well, but anyway, so when I was looking for other jobs, it was very important to me, and it's a big risk, you guys. Not everyone can do this, and I know when you're upfront and you freely disclose your diagnosis, sometimes you don't get that job you want. It is discrimination, but they still get away with it. They just do. But I had to look at the bigger picture. Do I want to work for somebody who is intolerant and unaccepting? Or do I want to work for somebody who embraces inclusiveness and diversity? And I chose option B. And with option B, there comes risks. So, when I went for this interview for this job I'm doing now, I was very upfront in the interview, and I literally said to who's my boss, is that, she was interviewing me, but I also was interviewing her because I needed to make sure that her place of business was going to be a right fit for me as well. And she really appreciated that. And then I went on to tell her, you know, I am really good at numbers. If you're wanting a good bookkeeper, I'm a good bookkeeper. I'm an excellent bookkeeper, actually. And I kind of told her my history of what I used to do. And I'm like, I'm very overqualified for a lot of the jobs here, which is why I don't get hired. And they flat out tell me it's because I'm overqualified, and they're worried I'm not going to stick around, and I'm going to leave them when a higher level position comes open somewhere else. When in fact that's really not the case. And it doesn't matter how many times I tell them that that's not the case. They don't want to pay me according to my credentials. So honestly, I should be getting paid about $20 an hour, $25 an hour, in between there. But where I live, they don't pay people that great here. They just don't, especially bookkeepers. Anyway, and so I went on to tell her, you know, I'm a whiz with numbers. I'm gifted. However, you need to know, I need accommodations where I work. And the reason is because I'm autistic and I have ADHD. I have monthly appointments. Every 3 months I have an appointment for my medication management. I said I'm in search of a therapist here, which means I'll have a therapy appointment at least once a month, if not every other week. Usually it's every other week when you start with a new therapist, because that therapist has to get to know you and you need to get to know that therapist. I said, plus my son has counseling appointments that he has to go to for his benefit. And then he also has an appointment once every 3 months for his medication management. I said, and a lot of employers do not tolerate people having to leave for doctor's appointments all the time on a regular basis. I said, so I need to make sure that whoever is wanting to hire me and willing to give me that chance is going to be okay with all of that. And also, these are some of the accommodations I need to be able to manage my stress level in the office where I'm working. And so I kind of just laid it out on the table, just, and I mean, I was expecting to go home and wait for a phone call, but before I even left the interview, she said right there at the table, I want to hire you. I want to hire you. You are what I'm looking for, and we can work all that other stuff out. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, I wasn't prepared to give an answer. So I need to process everything, and I need to talk with my husband. And I did. And so I took the position. And yes, it's not, I mean, what I'm getting paid is, I'm not getting paid what I should get paid. But like I said, for me, it's not just about the pay. For me, it's the quality of the environment that I'm working in. The ability, I get to make my own hours. If I have to take off work, I don't have to worry that my boss is going to say no. She's never said no to me. It's do what you got to do. And to me, that's worth a lot. So the lower pay kind of, and the ability to make my own hours and the ability to take off work anytime I need to at a moment's notice, it kind of equals each other out, I guess. I guess this means more to me than this. Now, if I had to be the breadwinner, that would change everything. I would have to say, hey, this is what I have to get paid per hour in order to stay here, because I'm now the breadwinner and I got to feed my family. Or I'm going to have to look for something else. I mean, I'm in a position now where I can take that lower pay right now. But if something was to change, obviously that's going to change everything. So I say all this to say, she was very accepting of my disclosure and accommodations that I need have been made very freely. So yes. And it's been interesting because she's been asking me questions about autism, and she has someone a friend of hers who has a child that's autistic, and she's like, they're having a hard time getting resources and there's like this 2-year wait just to get their child diagnosed and blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, because of where we live, resources are very scarce. If she wants a faster diagnosis or a faster way to get her child seen, she's going to have to go probably to Spokane, Washington or someplace like that, because there's just not a lot of experts here. And you think there would be, because the University of Montana is like one of the #1 autism research centers in America. But there's 2 campuses. I think there's one in Billings, Montana, and then here in Missoula, Montana. And Missoula, Montana is not a big city. It's not. And so the resources are very limited here. And so, yeah, there's going to be a waiting list. But there is an organization in Hamilton that's a nonprofit. And any money they make, literally, I'm going to do some more research with this organization, which is why I'm not saying the name of this organization right now. But I believe that every dime they make, every dime that's donated, they literally put back into the community. And they do things not just for autism. They do things for kids that are autistic. They do things with kids that are like severely ADHD, kids that have Down syndrome, kids that have other type severe mental disabilities. They have like something, it's kind of like the Special Olympics for kids. They do things with them that are sensory friendly outside, indoors. They do a lot of things. And they do art therapy, which I think is amazing. They have they have a parenting class. They have little workshops on how to create a sensory room or a quiet room in your home for your kid, things like that. So that's all wonderful, but here's the thing. When a kid turns 18, they're still autistic, they still have ADHD, they still have whatever they have. They don't grow out of it. It doesn't go away. And then what? What about the kid that's not very high functioning and they need more support? Where does that now adult get that support? There is a lack of support for adults. And it blows my mind. And it's no wonder. I'm amazed that I even was able to graduate with my bachelor's degree. And I did it without no support. Because, I mean, when I was in my early 20s, I was going to be assessed. And all they did was want to throw medication at me. Okay, well, you just have ADHD. Here's some medication. Medication doesn't help you with your executive functioning. Your inability to be able to complete mundane chores every day throughout the week. Your inability to be able to concentrate long enough to write down a list of things you need to do and then actually follow that list. Your inability to be able to regulate your emotions all the time and keep yourself from going into a burnout. Medication does not help you with your communication skills and communicating with other people or being able to feel a connection with another person. All medication does, it helps me with my focus. Yeah, I can focus on certain things, not everything. And it does keep me from my emotions from doing this a lot. I am a little bit more calmer and a little bit more steady with my ADHD. So the lack of support for adults. I had a therapist. It's the same therapist who diagnosed my son and I. He was wonderful. And when I told him we were moving, where we were moving, he was worried that I wouldn't find a therapist here. He was legit concerned, and he's right. I still have not. I've been here 3 years, going on 4 years. It'll be 4 years May, you guys, and I still have not found a therapist. So I have an appointment with my psychiatrist on the 10th. I'm going to sit her down and like, look, I need to find me somebody that I can talk to at least once a month that takes my husband's insurance. I do. I got things I need to work out. I can't find one. I haven't been able to find one. So maybe she can help me find one. I need one that is very educated about adult autism and ADHD in order for them to help me. So I miss Mr. Sanchez. that's what his name was. His name was Frank Sanchez in Pensacola, Florida. So if you're watching this and you're needing to find someone to help you out, Frank Sanchez in Pensacola, Florida is your person. He was trained through FSU CARD, which is a special organization in the Florida State University that specifically trains people to give therapy services and diagnoses of autism. So there's a plug for you, Mr. Sanchez. He'll never see this. Anyway, so I was started on acceptance and then I went on this huge tangent. See? Squirrel! It's my ADHD kicking in. All over the place. Anyway, so yes, so acceptance is the most important thing to me. And what does acceptance mean? It means you accept me for who I am. You don't expect me to meet your social norms in order to have a conversation with me. Claire said something really wonderful during the live, and she said that the one thing that she wished was there wasn't such a divide, a them versus us situation, and that those of us in the autism community are doing mostly the heavy lifting right now, and which isn't fair. And somebody in the chat had said, well, you know, the neurotypical person needs to at least meet us halfway. And I agree. And that's what acceptance is. Let's meet each other both at least halfway. Let's have a dialogue. But here's the thing, not all autistic people can have a dialogue. I have a hard time with dialogue in that my thinking is so rigid. And I'm going to be very open right now and let y'all know. Sometimes, actually a lot of times, I have a hard time accepting somebody else's opinion as possibly being right. And it's not really a right or wrong situation. It's just a different opinion. But in my mind, my opinion's the right opinion. Your opinion's the wrong opinion. And I have a hard time discussing that maybe there's something, maybe the right opinion is somewhere in the middle. I don't do good with gray at all. It's black or white. It's this or that. And so there are certain subjects that I refuse to talk about because in my mind, I have it a certain way in my mind, and I know there's no changing my mind, and I don't know if I can have a mature adult respectful dialogue about certain things. And so these subjects are off the table. I refuse to talk about. And I'm probably missing out on a lot of good opportunities to have a good dialogue and learn how to see something from a different perspective. But because these certain things are so emotionally charging for me, I don't want to go near it. It's like I'm protecting myself from getting upset. So I'm going to share with you some of those things. Political views. I can't do it. I can't. I have some very strong stances on our government here in the United States. And so I just can't go there with people. I can't even go there with my own family. I can't go there with my brother or my sister-in-law Gail or my mother. I couldn't even talk politics with my dad. I just can't. I just can't go there. Anytime I've even tried to go there, it didn't turn out well. So I avoid it. Another thing I avoid is talking about the puzzle piece. I can't go there either. I can't. Another thing I can't talk about, well, the puzzle piece, I addressed it one time in one of my videos here. I think it was later last year. But like it's a sensitive topic for a lot of us in the autism community. I had one autistic person comment on my video that I had about my earlier video about the puzzle piece, and thankfully I was able to actually read that comment and actually opened up my mind a little bit, and I understood where she was coming from, and I understood, okay, I see her perspective. I was able to accept that perspective because it made sense. However, I don't like talking about it. The other thing is ABA therapy. I can't talk about that with anybody. I have my opinion, and I can't do it. The fourth one is how do I say this? Because it's not really, I would say the fourth one's religion, but I can talk about different types of religions. As far as what they are, but how do I put it? I don't approach the subject of this religion is right and this religion is wrong, or I don't like getting into any of that. My stance is everyone has their beliefs, everyone has a right to believe in what they believe in, and let's just leave it at that. And if you don't want to watch me because I talk about God or something, totally get it. My feelings are not hurt. Much respect kind of situation. But I don't want to get in a conversation about it, if that makes sense. And then, yeah. So, you can accept somebody else's boundaries. That would be a beautiful world, to accept each other's boundaries and not trying to push the other person to go past that boundary. But it's unrealistic. The world that we live in, people are constantly disrespecting your boundaries. Sometimes I can handle it. Sometimes I can't. Another thing that, I know another thing is confrontation. If a subject is going to cause confrontation, I check out and I'm out of there. I've done left the building, I've done found an exit, and I'm gone. All you see is Nisi's smoke behind her little feet. I don't do confrontation. And if someone confronts me in a very aggressive way, I've been known to cut off all communication. Because I don't deal with it well. Especially if I'm going through something very emotional at the time. Like my father, we found out my father had lung cancer, small cell lung cancer, the day before my birthday. So from December 6th, and then he died January 26th, and then his funeral was a few days after that in February. And I'm still dealing with the loss of my father and trying to process all that, which I haven't been doing a very good job of, by the way. And if somebody, I had someone confront me on something, I did not deal with it well at all. I could not deal with it, actually. That was it. Just blocked. I do not have the mental or emotional capacity to deal with the message that I got. And I still don't. I still can't go there. I've got other things I'm having to deal with. So, it's difficult because you want to spread acceptance, but sometimes in your real life, sometimes you're not always accepting yourself. And where do you draw the line between acceptance and standing firm in your boundaries and defending yourself? There's a lot of gray in there that I don't deal with well. So I try to keep the spreading of acceptance as fundamental as possible and as focused in one section as possible, and that is the acceptance that neurodivergent people need different accommodations. They need grace. They need love. They need to be able to not have to mask and know that they care, that they matter, they're important, and they matter, and that their way of looking at the world is just as good as somebody else's way as looking at the world. It's just different. So, I don't know how many of these videos I'm going to do. I find doing these videos very difficult. One is because there's so many autism channels out there, so many wonderful creators already having this discussion. What do I really have to bring to the table? Do I really have anything different to say than what everybody else is already saying? Not really. So I'm like, is it even valuable what I'm saying? So I have a hard time doing these videos. But you asked me to do a video on my special interests, man, I can be on a video every day. I'm all about talking about my special interest. I love yarn. I love crochet. I love creating stuff with my hands. I could do that all day long. I love to talk about numbers. I'm an accountant, and I love reconciling accounts, and I love finding things that are not right and fixing them. And Yeah. So, but this right here, this is out of my comfort zone. I used to have several videos. I have a playlist called Autism educational videos, and I have several on there, but I just got to the point where I'm just like, I mean, I'm 50. I was diagnosed at 43, and I'm still figuring a lot of stuff out as a 50-year-old. I still catch myself masking, and I hate it. And so if I feel like I'm going to end up masking that day, if I go to a certain place, I won't go. I'll stay home, and I'll isolate. I try not to mask, but sometimes I've been masking my whole life. It's hard to just stop when you've been doing it your whole life. I've been a master chameleon my whole life. And just to stop, it's hard. I don't like bright lights. I don't like the grocery store. I don't like a crowd of people because all the different little conversations echo throughout the room, and then I hear all these little different conversations, and it's like a bee in your ear. It's like, if you ever had like a fly or some kind of insect buzz really close to your ear and your eardrum is vibrating, that's what it is for me. And so I avoid a lot of things. I do. And I don't like feeling like if I go into a room, I can feel the energy in a room really fast, and I can tell if it's an accepting loving kind of people, or if the room is filled with some very judgmental, very kind of people, like negative energy kind of people. And then if I can't judge the room, I'm a wallflower, and I just sit back and I'm just observing because I don't feel safe. So will we ever get to a point where the level of acceptance that's needed for the autistic community, and not just autism, you guys, the neurodivergent community, let's just include everybody that's neurodivergent. Sadly, I don't think we will. But it's not going to stop me from advocating for acceptance, advocating for inclusion, advocating for organizations and individuals to be accommodating just a little bit, please. I mean, you want to be accommodated. There's some entitled people out there that really want to be accommodated, way past the point that they deserve. All we're asking is, just some acceptance. Just, who cares if I'm rocking back and forth like this in church? Who cares? I'll sit in the back row so I'm not disturbing anybody or making someone lose focus in church. That's why I sit in the back row, because I rock a lot. I sway a lot in church. I sway side to side. When during worship service, people just think I'm, swaying to the music. But I continue to sway even during the sermon. That's why I sit in the back row. So I don't disturb people and make people lose their attention because they're watching me go back and forth. I wear noise canceling, those gel ear pluggy things. I wear those in my ears. I'm out. I need to get some more. I do. I need to get some more. Anyway, just a little acceptance, I wish I could see more acceptance amongst students in the schools, but they're kids. And unfortunately, we all know how that is. So, but I still try. And I try to teach my son how to be an example. And it's hard. You know, especially if you got a student that's doing mean things to you, you know, it's difficult. And you know, honestly, I don't think private schools are any better than public schools, to be honest. You still got the picking on students. You still got the bullying going on in private schools. It's still there. It is. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, so like I said, I don't know how many more of these I'm going to do. This one is very, very long. It's like over 45 minutes, so I'll do this as a premiere. It'll be like a live. We'll just have to see. We'll have to see what comes to mind. I don't want to just get up here and just do videos just to do videos, because that's not what Autism Acceptance the month of April is about. I only want to do these if I really have something that I feel is important to say. Something that I really want to get across to the community. I don't want to be on here just to fill air. Does that make sense? So, this might be the only one for the month of April. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll share some, maybe I'll feel up to sharing some personal stuff that maybe I struggle with, and things that I might be trying to do to help myself with something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll play it by ear. In the meantime, I would like to challenge you to advocate for acceptance, not just in the month of April. I would like to challenge you to advocate for acceptance 365 days out of the year. And that's it. So with that said, I'm sending you all my love from Big Sky, Montana. Mwah, kissing, virtual hugs, because Niecy doesn't do real hugs unless I know they're coming. No touchy. And like I always say, and I say this to myself because I do have a problem with masking, dare to be you, dare to be different. Love from Montana. Bye, everybody.